guys, welcome to the Traveling Toques. Today we just wanted to go over, we've been asked by a bunch of friends some questions about Disney because I've been going for years and you've recently started going, and we both have a great love for it. So a lot of people ask us questions, and one of the big one that we get asked is, where should I stay? So we thought that we would come up with some pros and cons of staying on site versus off site.
They may not be in any particular order. We'll try to put our preferences in to make it go as smoothly as possible.
Yeah, so I've done both. I've been going since I've been little. So I've experienced staying off site and at Disney on the same trip versus on site the entire time.
So for the first pro with transportation, when you stay on site, there's a lot of transportation that you can take advantage of that's free. Starting from the airport, the Magical Express, you book that, that's free. They can even get your luggage delivered right to your hotel.
Yeah, so we're international, so we don't live in the States. They send us these tags you can put on your suitcase before you even go, and so it would go directly to your hotel if you desire. We haven't actually done that because I tried it once and we arrived late with a late flight, and by the time we got to our room, our suitcases didn't have time to arrive, and so it would be coming the next morning. So if you are a late flight, I would suggest not using that, but it would be perfect if you had an early morning flight. So the Magical Express, you basically go down to the bottom of the airport. You get out, they tell you which hotel, like you say what hotel you're going to, they check your reservation. You get on the bus. It's about a 45-minute bus ride, I think, from the airport.
About that, half hour, 45 minutes, depending when you're staying.
So if you have children, it's convenient because there is a movie. The little movie that comes on also describes what to expect, and it's Disney characters, so that'd be entertaining for children and adults alike.
And from my experience doing the Magical Express, it's just as fast getting on board a bus, checking in, everything like that, as it would be to renting a car. So
yeah, renting a car can take a while. There's long lines. You have to go carry all your luggage to the car. There's a lot of work involved with that. But I mean, if you are a large family, renting a car may come in handy too. But
yeah.
So the other part of the transportation is the buses. They have buses, monorails, and Skyliners, and boats.
Ferry boats for certain resorts around the Magic Kingdom.
So all of that is included with your stay. You don't have to pay for any of that. That'll take you from the hotel to the whichever park it is. So there's 4 parks, and so it'll take you to any of those. Another good thing about the transportation is you can use it anytime during the day. The buses are constantly running, the boats are running, monorails are running, so it's not like you're waiting for 1 or 2 shuttles that come from a hotel to the parks.
And all the transportation, they run, I think, about an hour before park opens and generally an hour or 2 after park closes. So there's never any time that it's not really running that you have to worry about that.
Yeah. And if you're concerned that you wouldn't want to only rely on their transportation, they do have the minivans, they call them. So you can go from resort to resort in a very quick time. I think they have lifts as well, should you want to do that.
If you don't know what a minivan is, it's an actual minivan, but it's painted up as Minnie Mouse with the polka dots and everything like that. And it is on, I believe it's on the Lyft app.
Yeah. So another real benefit of staying, this is like one of the top ones to me, is the early fast passes that you get. And if you're not familiar with Disney World right now, basically it is there's an app that you get. So there's my Disney Experience app. If you were to stay at Disney, you get this app and you can do all your planning online. And one of the things that you get is a fast pass that you can reserve 60 days in advance. So you're allowed 3 rides or experiences that you can book for whichever day that you're staying at each park. So you are guaranteed, it's like a fast line, I would say.
Yeah.
Is that the best way to describe it?
It's a faster waiting queue, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're staying on site, it's 60 days. If you're staying off site, it's only 30 days that you can book. So you get an extra 30 days extra to book these.
Yeah, and the 60 days is really important because everybody, it's like ordering, tickets that you have to get online right when they open. And if you want certain experiences or certain rides, you have to get on there, or you may not get those fast passes at all. So
yeah, and usually some of the more popular rides, Flight of Passage, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, if you're not on there right at 7 o'clock on that 60-day mark, it could be problematic getting one of those until somebody else releases it.
So you could have like 2-hour waits, just depending on the time of year you go. You could have a very long wait for some of those rides. So fast passes are very important.
One of the other benefits from staying on site is the extra magical hours. So certain parks, they'll open up an extra hour, 2 maybe early. Generally, Magic Kingdom will have extra magic hours up anywhere up until midnight sometimes. So that's when, if you're staying on site, only those people are allowed into the park at that time. So that's when you can take advantage of those rides that you don't have fast passes for, to quick jump into the queues at that time and get those rides off your bucket list.
Yeah, so there are, now to keep in mind, there are like 30,000 rooms at least at Disney World. So it's not like it's going to be empty parks, but you're still a lot less crowds.
Another benefit from staying on site is the Disney Dining Plan. The Disney Dining Plan is basically you're prepaying for your meals. They have different tiers that you would call it for the Disney Dining Plan. I believe it's quick service, regular, and deluxe.
So I think they might have changed it lately. I'm not
They might have changed the wording, but anyway, quick service is basically the counter services, the quick meals. Table service, you get 1 table service, 1 counter service, and snacks.
Yeah.
And then deluxe is multiple table service, 2 table services plus snacks.
Signature, I think, meals.
Signature meals and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so you also get 2 alcoholic beverages,
Right.
so with lunch and dinner, and that's even for the quick service meal. So you keep that in mind as well. Now you have to use it with the meal, you can't save it and have that drink later.
Yeah, you have to use it up at that sitting. This is just something new that happened, I would say, in the last 9 months, a year that they've changed.
Could be.
So it could change again down in the future as well. So, but it's a good option to have. If you want to have a set budget and you want to know what you're paying for, the Disney Dining is very helpful that way, that it links to your Magic Band and you just have to scan and get your credits taken off that way. And you can also hook up your credit card for purchases to your Magic Band too, but that's not the Disney Dining Plan.
No. Okay. Another convenience or a pro of staying at Disney is the convenience of being so close. When you're right on property, especially if you have small children or you're older, and if you're there, in the extreme heat, like in the summertime, you may want to have a break throughout the day, or if you started really early or you're out really late, it's nice to go back to your room where that is more difficult if you're staying off-site. If you're on-site, you just hop on the bus, go home, or basically go to your Disney home, and you can go for a swim, your children can have a nap, and just have some downtime, and then head back to the park again later in the day.
This was very handy when our group went down in September 2019. It was very, very hot, and basically we just tried to get there earlier, came back to our hotel rooms, laid by the pool, took naps, whatever need be, and then go back at night and enjoyed the cooler temperatures.
Yeah, and if you're gonna have a really late night too, it's kind of handy to have that break away from the crowds.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say, there's a lot of amenities that Disney resorts have, and these range according to which location you stay at. So they have a value resort, moderate, and the deluxe. We've stayed at all of them, or I haven't stayed at all of them yet.
I've only stayed at value and moderate so far, but that's gonna change.
Yeah, so there are different activities. So like, even at the value resorts, which is I don't know what those rates start at, like $129 a night now. Just depending on the time of year you go, they can go up in price. So they have like the All-Star Sports and All-Star Music, Pop Century and things like that, and those ones. But all of them have heated pools, which is really important if you're comparing against off-site, because a lot of the off-sites, when I have stayed off-site before, one of the things I didn't even think about, because I'd always stayed at Disney, was that the pools are not heated at some of these other hotels. And so if you go in January or February and you think you're going to go swimming with your kids, forget about it. Those pools are freezing. So it is really nice with the Disney hotels. So even if it's cold at night, you can still go in the pool, and it's really comfortable. So some of the other amenities, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, some of the other
what you
amenities that I've seen that I like would be that they have the full restaurants and bars there at every, even the value down to the deluxe. You go to some hotels off-site and you might get a continental breakfast included and whatnot, but on-site you can get a full breakfast, full lunch, full dinner. They have pool bars, they have other bars at all locations where it's very handy to get some drinks.
All the value resorts all have the counter service for sure. Everybody has a counter service, and then they do have the sit-down table service at the moderate and the deluxe resorts, where you won't get that at the value.
Right.
But yeah, there is food all the time, and they're open really late too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another benefit. The other thing is there's laundry facilities.
Yeah.
There's gift shops that have snacks.
The gift
first
shops
aid.
have everything from first aid, gifts, that sort of thing. If you forget some toiletries that you forgot to pack, they always carry that. They've got some a little bit of medicines, and then if you want snacks or drinks that take back to your room, you can be purchased there as well.
Yeah. And another thing that staying at all of them is you get free magic bands. So these are the bands that you would wear, and everything's connected to this. You can set up your credit cards to this. This one is, we paid extra to have, the design on it. But normally you would just get like a plain band of whatever color. You can choose your color, and those are free. And that will open your doors. You can do online check-in, where you just use this and your phone to log in. You can have it set so your children can't charge anything other than their food.
Yeah.
What else would you say? Oh, your purchases, if you want to buy gifts,
Yeah.
you can use this to buy gifts, and you can have them sent to your room. So you don't even have to carry any of your souvenirs from the parks or Disney Springs.
Right, that's one of the on-site perks as well, is that you purchase something at the Magic Kingdom very early in the morning. You don't want to carry it around. So they do have a free service to send it to your room for you as long as you're staying on site. Some of the other amenities that they have is that they have activities for kids and whatnot. There could be like art animation, there could be drawing classes to draw characters, that sort of thing. Some of these are free, some of them are charged. It just depends on what kind of activity, and it ranges anywhere from a class drawing all the way up to some of the Seven Seas Lagoon. You could rent boats and drive around and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, so the deluxe have more. There's spas at some of them. So they do have arcades at all of these, even the value. I think all of them have the arcades.
Yeah.
Those do cost money, so none of that is included. But the activities, there's so many different activities that you can do. There's there's carriage rides. At they even have campgrounds. So if you wanted to stay at a camper, you could bring your own camper and stay there.
Yeah.
Or they have some cabins, but they have carriage rides, horses.
And the last pro that we can see staying on site would be the actual Disney experience itself. It's really hard to put a price tag on what Disney has to offer, the theming, right down from the rooms to the buses, to the transportation, to the restaurants. It's Disney themed everywhere for you.
And it's not like in your face Disney theming, like, so it's maybe some people will not love it. So let's say you are not into the whole Disney characters. There are hotels that you can stay at that do not go over the top. But for us who really enjoy it, so some of the hotels have characters all over the place in their
So
pictures.
to back up that there is ones that are a lot that some people would think in your face, but then there are other ones that are toned down. So it's got a mix of everything for everybody for that
Yeah.
Disney experience.
And part of that includes the music. So even, you know, you're in the resort and you can hear the music playing. Some resorts are more subtle. Some are a little bit louder, like around the pool. But it is just a whole experience that you can't even explain really until you're there. But you don't want to leave and you want to go back. Like it just,
Right.
it's very addicting. Yeah.
So if you'd stay at like the Art of Animation, they have Little Mermaid rooms, they have Cars rooms, so
Yeah.
they theme rooms after different movies, characters, that sort of thing. The Caribbean Beach Resort, they'll have pirate rooms where everything is done up. Not necessarily Pirates of the Caribbean, but like the shower curtain or room dividers of the pirate flag. They'll have rum barrels as night tables.
The beds looked like you had your own ship. That room was like the ultimate theming. So
Yeah.
there are some places like that.
That was it for the pros. So those are the reasons why we find the benefits for staying on site. We'll give you some of the cons for staying on site, which gives you kind of an idea of the pros for staying off site then as well.
Right. So I guess the ultimate thing people look at first before you really decide something is a lot of people look at the price, and the price may scare you away from staying at Disney because it is higher price than staying off site.
Right.
The value resorts are not that bad of a price when you're comparing, but you have to realize that those rooms, they are very small. So if you have a large family, you would have to get 2 rooms. They do have different kinds of rooms. They have basically the value resorts are the smallest. If you stay at the Art of Animation, they do have family suites where you get like a bedroom and then some extra beds in the other room. You have 2 washrooms in those. You can also, the deluxe rooms are bigger than a value room where you still have just 2 beds. You get an outside balcony with the deluxe resorts. So if you were to compare that room to somewhere off-site, for instance, the prices would be extremely high. So that is a con, I would say, because if you're just comparing pricing, you would never stay there.
Right. So if Disney you like going there, but it's not that you're a Disney nut or enthusiast that you need to see Disney all the time, price may be more of a factor for you in that aspect.
So so some of those things, and the cost of the food. So if you are staying on site, you are paying more. Obviously, Disney food is going to cost more if you don't have a car and you're eating at all the resorts. The prices are very high, drinks are very high, and if you don't have the Disney dining plan you paid ahead, it will come to a lot of money. So you have to keep that in mind. Whereas if you're off-site, the good thing is you can go to like all the chains restaurants. You know, you've got your Perkins, your Denny's, IHOPs. There's all these, and there's more variety as well, I'd say.
For dining, you have to book your dining up to 180 days
Yeah.
ahead of time. So you're there that day, but you're staying off-site. You might have wanted to stay at Disney to eat at Epcot, but you wanted sushi. Well, they were filled up 180 days, you can't get in. So you go outside the park, driving back to the hotel, you'll find a bunch of places that you can get sushi at then.
Yeah, you still may have to wait, but you can at least get in. That is one of the things though too. Yeah, you have to plan. When you go to Disney, you are really planning a long time in advance. So you may not know how you're going to feel when you get there. Do you feel like sushi or do you feel like pizza that night if you've booked it 180 days in advance? So yeah, that is something to keep in mind. Another con I would say is the crowds. If you don't want to be in a hotel with a lot of people, you wanted a small resort, or if you wanted to rent a villa, like a condominium where you have your own apartments or townhouse, etc. That way you kind of get away from all the crowds. So if crowds are really a bother to you, that would definitely be a con, because you're always going to the food court, or there's always people around. that you can't really escape that noise and the crowd level, I'd say.
Yeah, when you're staying on site, yes, they're probably filled to capacity for the most part. And it's not that you're always elbow to elbow with people, especially at the resorts.
No.
It's just that you're always going to be around people. Like even on a slow day going to using the transportation, the buses, you're still going to have 10 people waiting for the bus to go to the park with you.
Yeah. So like we just stayed at the Windsor Hills Resort the last time we went to Florida. We didn't go to Disney, but if we would have stayed there, for example, we had our own pool in the backyard. There was 3 bedrooms. There's a townhouse. So there you would have gotten away from people if that would have bothered us. But we still love Disney, staying at Disney. But anyways, that's something to keep in mind. At Disney World, at the resorts, if you have your own car, you will have to pay for parking there. They do have a charge, and it was, the last I heard, was like $25 a night. So that is a con as well.
Right, but then with staying on site, you're paying for your parking, but you're not paying for the parking lots at Epcot or whatnot, because you have the option for the transportation.
Yeah, so it may even out.
Right.
Yeah. Another con about staying on Disney site is there's a lot of walking. So even if you have your own car, you still, from the parking lot, you have to walk to your room, and then if you want to walk to the restaurants on site, there is a long walks wherever you go. That's only usually if you're going to Disney, you plan on that anyways. So, but if you have difficulty walking, make sure you have like a scooter rented, or you have your wheelchair, etc. that you may need.
Yeah, staying off site, you're usually at one building, and they'll have an elevator going up and down. On site, most of the places, using Caribbean Beach again as an example, they have different communities. So they'll have Jamaica, Antigua, all these different islands are different communities, and in those communities there's going to be about 7 buildings per community. So you have to walk to the transportation through all these buildings. You have to walk to the restaurant if you want breakfast. Most of them had coffee makers in the rooms before COVID-19 hit.
Yeah.
Those are going to be taken out. So anyways, you just have to walk and get your coffee, that sort of thing. So there's always more walking when you're staying on site property.
Yeah. And there's the other thing is, if you stayed at Value or a Moderate, there's no elevators. Is there? Is there elevators in there?
There wasn't at
Values. There wasn't.
Values, no. And some of the Moderates don't have elevators either.
At least maybe not near your room. So if they're somewhere, we just didn't experience them.
Yeah, at Caribbean
sure
Beach there was service elevators, but they weren't for people to use. It was just 3 stories is generally what most of the buildings are.
And waiting for transportation, that is a con. But again, just depending on if you are going to Magic Kingdom, you're going to be waiting for any kind of transportation to get to your own car versus a bus or a monorail to get to a Disney resort. If you're going to Hollywood Studios, Animal Kingdom, or Epcot, if you have your own transportation, it's just walking basically from the park to your transportation, which can still be a lot, but I mean, you don't have to wait for a bus in that sense.
The wait time is probably a little more staying on site, or at least it feels that way, I should say, because when you're driving, you're moving, you're walking. When you're staying off site, you're walking to your car. You're always feeling like you're doing something. When you're on site, you're basically standing still waiting for a bus to arrive, and that could take half hour, 45 minutes at most if it's busy and they need to have multiple buses come in.
It's usually when it's at the end of the park night and everyone's leaving at the same time. It never seems that way when you're going there or coming back throughout the day. And again, it does feel longer, I think, when you're waiting versus walking. The actual time line's probably less.
Yeah. Give an example. Last time we went with our group, we went to Magic Kingdom. Fireworks ended, and then everybody leaves. We had to wait for 2 buses for our resort to pick everybody up and go before we got through the queue to get to our bus. So that probably took about 35 to 45 minutes.
Yeah. Now, having given you our pros and cons, our recommendation to friends is usually to definitely stay on site. Again, that's an individual thing. Even for some friends who are not so much into Disney, we would suggest one of the hotels that are not in your face Disney. So
Right.
Coronado Springs,
Riviera.
yeah.
Riviera. It does somewhat come down to price, so you always want to look at it that way. But for me, it's hard to put a price on that Disney experience,
Yeah.
that Disney magic, and also the convenience of everything too. That they
Yeah.
try to make sure that you don't have to worry about where you're parking. Get all your fast passes lined up before you even get there, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and another thing I just thought of too, if you have teens, and you are staying on site, you can feel comfortable about them hopping on a bus and heading back to the room, or heading to the parks without you, because you know it's different. If you are off site, you all have to leave at the same time,
Right.
so that is a nice perk as well.
Yeah.
So I guess that's it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and like and subscribe if you want to hear some more of our videos.
Thanks.
Thanks, bye.